It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this press briefing on the planned annual World Orisha Congress, WOOCON, a global gathering of practitioners, scholars, and enthusiasts of Orisha tradition from around the world, which is being championed by the National Institute for Cultural Orientation. NICO, the National Institute for Cultural Orientation, is an agency of government under the Federal Ministry of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and Creative Economy. This institute came into existence as a result of a joint initiative between the federal government of Nigeria and UNESCO under the World Decade for Cultural Development in 1988 to 1997, which emphasized the cultural dimension of development. This groundbreaking initiative is going to be one of the global cultural festivals that will reposition Nigeria as a major tourism destination in the world, by exploring new opportunities in cultural and spiritual tourism that can generate over $10 billion annually for the country in the next 3 years if planned well. The whole idea is to establish a convergence for Orisha devotees globally in Nigeria, where enthusiasts can gather to deepen their spiritual bond in brotherhood at a spot between Ife, Oyo, Osogbo, Ogun, and Lagos, mapped as Congress Arena. It is gratifying to note that all over the world today, spiritual outreach programs that align with ancestral convergence have proven to be a huge revenue-generating ventures, with Brazil, Saudi Arabia, Israel, Egypt, India, and China being front runners in bringing global audiences to their countries at periodic times. These countries have become so great because their cultures formed the basis of their development. And if we rejuvenate and reorientate our cultural nuances, our greatness as a nation will not be too far-fetched. Located in Nigeria's Yoruba heartland, where the Orisha tradition originates, the proposed World Orisha Congress will no doubt drive economic growth through tourism, employment, international investment, while preserving and promoting Africa's spiritual heritage. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria's decision to collaborate with Brazil in the area of culture, tradition, and heritage is informed by the deep historical and cultural connections that exist between the two nations. These cultural similarities are specifically profound and undeniable in the areas of Yoruba heritage, where thousands of Brazilians have over the years visited Nigeria to participate in major cultural and religious festivals such as Osun-Osogbo Festival, the Olojo Festival, the Shango Festival, to mention just a few. These interactions reaffirm the strong ancestral ties between our people and highlight the need for structured engagement that will further solidify these bonds. Interestingly, ladies and gentlemen, it is not just Brazil, but a whole lot of other countries in the Caribbean. The importance of our collaboration with Brazil cannot be overemphasized, as we also look forward to work with Brazilian authority to curb unethical activities of certain Nigerians falsely representing the Yoruba traditional religion in Brazil. Recently, we received serious concerns from notable traditional leaders and institutions in Brazil regarding these unethical activities, where some individuals have been accused of exploitation, deception, and misrepresentation considerably, which have become a menace to the integrity of Yoruba Orisha tradition. Unfortunately, many well-meaning Brazilians are falling victim to these fraudulent practices by unqualified individuals masquerading as Babalawo, Ifa priests, and traditional practitioners. The federal government of Nigeria strongly condemns these fraudulent activities and is taking concrete steps to sanitize this misrepresentation. We recognize that this issue has persisted for a long time, but immediate action is now being taken to ensure that only qualified and accredited traditional representatives are allowed to engage in cultural and religious exchanges in Brazil. To address this challenge, NICO my agency is working closely with other relevant stakeholders and key traditional institutions in Nigeria to put in place a proper verification and accreditation system. As part of this effort, we seek the collaboration of the Brazilian Consulate on verification before issuance of visa, where NICO will establish a verification system for all traditional practitioners, Babalawo, Ifa priests, traditional kings, etc., etc., before they are issued visas to travel to Brazil. In this regard, it will be appreciated if the consulate can liaise with NICO for proper validation to ensure that only genuine and qualified representatives of Yoruba traditional institutions are granted entry into Brazil. That way, deceptive ones among them will be fished out. We are equally planning to extend this verification by establishing a proper accreditation system for all Yoruba traditional practitioners in Brazil. This will ensure that Brazilians seeking spiritual and cultural guidance are engaging only with recognized and authentic practitioners, free from fraud and exploitation. Beyond addressing these challenges, NICO is also working to create a structured platform to assist Brazilians wishing to visit Nigeria for cultural exploration and convergence. Plans are underway to ensure that Brazilians experience the best hospitality and an authentic connection to their Yoruba heritage when visiting Nigeria. Before this speech is concluded, I must salute the support and encouragement from our patrons, Professor Wole Soyinka and Professor Wande Abimbola. These two men are simply the symbol of this initiative. My heartfelt appreciation also goes to the most revered monarch of Yoruba ancestry, the symbol of Yoruba existence, and the representative of the progenitor of this race. Abisi, the Onirisha, the Oni of Ife, who is also the chairman of the board of trustees, with members who have a direct responsibility to liaise with governments of Nigeria, Brazil, Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries where we expect cultural tourists in their millions for WOOCON. Thank you very much. Before I end this speech, I want to clarify that the diaspora has become an important issue to our development going forward. The spirituality dimension we are adding to it is a connecting pin that will make it work better. After all, this was how everybody became a Christian and a Muslim. So no problem. The historical diaspora and the conventional diaspora will be harnessed into this idea so that we all work together for the greatness and the achievement of this proposition. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you.
God bless you. God bless you. Your Excellencies, all children of Orisha, all present here. I must crave your indulgence. I went through the brochure and I listened. I'm a little bit unsettled by an error still being committed. You see, Orisha was not born in Nigeria. Couldn't have been. Nigeria did not exist. Orisha is far older than this artificial construct called Nigeria or Ghana or Togo or where Yoruba people are spread. So let's just always say born in Yoruba land, and we cannot go wrong. Or born in the African continent. Absolutely, no problem. But not born in Nigeria. Nigeria and Orisha, they don't occupy the same level of consciousness, appreciation, depth, and heritage. I want your brochure online. Very heavy work done there. Congratulations. Is to bring the diaspora home, to have an event where the Orisha, I call it the Orisha, but I always avoid the word Aborisha, by the way, simply because it's misunderstood. The thing that it means to worshipping wooden idols, rather than seeing these statues, like in Roman Catholicism, as media of communication with Godhead. It's a deliberate, mischievous misunderstanding, by the way. It's quite deliberate. So I always say WORLD ORISHA rather than Aborisha. It's a quirk of mine. So to bring the Orisha of the diaspora worshipping along the streets on one side, on the other, the Orisha of homeland, here, Yoruba land, also parading in the spiritual procession. To see that final, both symbolic and spiritual merging of two streams, two tributaries of Yoruba land, finally being brought together where they belong. Now, when I said it at the time, I little dreamt, and this is about, how many years ago? Lagos at 50? Well, over a decade now, I think. Yeah. I little dreamt that there still existed people who would not just turn their back, but do everything to frustrate that kind of convergence of tributaries of the same family. Try and imagine Oba Akirolu of Lagos, for instance, when I made this proposal, which could have been effected if other things had worked out. Just imagine the Oba of Lagos getting up and saying, "Not in my domain. I don't want to see that kind of primitive manifestation taking place in Lagos over my dead body." Can you picture it? Impossible. He wouldn't, because he's cultured. He's a civilized person. Right? Agree with him politically or not, that's individual. But that's a man of culture. And did everything, in fact, to make that festival happen on so many levels. However, something happened a few years ago when, shall we say, the equivalent of Lagos, somewhere towards the north, forbade that kind of procession in his domain. Remember that woman who wanted to celebrate her culture, Yoruba culture, in her own ancestral land? And the so-called crowned head had the nerve to insult the Yoruba race, the black race, in totality, by contemptuously forbidding that procession. A few years ago, it happened, he got away with it. However, he received his answer. The governors of several states behaved as one would expect. They acted like Omoluabi, and they showed him that he might be lord over that tiny domain wherever he ruled, that Yoruba is much larger than he and his ancestors. Because they got together straight away and inaugurated the celebration of Yoruba culture with the Asheshe, which is now celebrated annually. So we should actually thank that emir for making us renew our consciousness of something we'd always taken for granted. And we just thought, this woman, who's a believer in the Orisha, we're just going to celebrate in the usual way, some minor thing. However, that emir now has the Asheshe taking place annually. So we need a few more intolerant people like that. We should go in a procession and thank him for waking us up. However, it still remains a rankling insult, one which will not be expunged in this generation or the next. This very activity is part and parcel of that process of expunging that insult and making him small in his domain. And the wider we spread it, the more we make such minds ridiculous, petulant, uninformed, expose them for what they were. Perhaps he and his advisors were to foment some kind of violent response. They made a mistake. The Yoruba know how to act, how to respond. And it may not be immediate, it may not be sudden, it can be a prolonged process, a kind of pebble which has been thrown in a pond, and the ripples keep widening all over. The Orisha Congress is part and parcel of that ripple. And so we say to all those who still fail to understand that Godhead is one, but there are many parts to Godhead. The Orisha do not kill. I was reminded, just when we were in the room just now, of something which I've said before, that the Orisha is one religion which, unlike the so-called world religions, Islam and Christianity, have never declared or fought a war on its own behalf. They never launched wars of belief or disbelief. They never crucified human beings for seeking their own way to Godhead, their own way to internalize their response to phenomena, to nature, to the mysterious, to the ineffable. And yet people have been crucified in history, tortured, beheaded, enslaved especially, and enslaved for the crime of choosing their own path to Godhead. They've been forcibly converted, had their heads shaven, given names strange to them, meaningless names, at least speaking from our own culture, and we had our own names before then. The black race has undergone so much humiliation. This is why this gathering, this convergence from time to time, getting more and more structured, continue to take place. We do not lynch the Orisha. There is nowhere in our history we'll find that a youth like Deborah Samuel was publicly lynched, and that lynching celebrated by the killer who posted his face with a matchbox on the internet, say yes, I set light to that woman for allegedly, this youth, for allegedly repeat, insulting his own religion. No proof, no nothing. And that student was mobbed, brutally killed in the most sordid way. And the trial went on, and finally dissipated. These self-confessed criminals were set free to go and continue with assault. You will not see the religion of Yoruba acting in a dehumanizing way simply because allegedly Oshun was insulted, or Shango was insulted, or dismissed, whatever. It does not exist in our history. And this is what So I want to thank the organizers and to let you know that we're all working towards the same goal. Very quickly, for instance, we have a project called Heritage Voyage of Return, whose idea is to consolidate what people have been doing individually in dribs and drabs, coming from Barbados, from the United States, to Ghana, to Badagry, Dakar, Gorée Island, and all the infamous points of departure for the black race. And there's a project now to make it a constant annual event, whose inauguration, in fact, we very nearly got carried it out during the Lagos at 50. If at that time we'd had 5 million for a boat which were offered us, would have had that festival terminating with a pilgrimage of black people from Brazil, from the Caribbean, etc., and even from Europe. But as I said, there was always a slip between the lip and the cup. It doesn't matter. It will still happen. It'll happen, not necessarily in my lifetime, but it will happen. And the grounds are being laid. It's a continuing process. I formally launched it at the United Nations event in February this year, which is the United Nations celebrating the second decade of program for enslaved peoples. We used the opportunity to announce it there. We're working also with some departments of UNESCO. And I want all of you who are here to take that message back, that we have this project, the Heritage Voyage of Return, in which a boat will begin from Brazil, or perhaps they will fly to mainland, to Dakar, but a boat will certainly go through the Caribbean, then sail and stop at every port which has a history of slavery, of enslavement of African peoples, whether negative or positive, Tripoli, Libya, Morocco, Essaouira, Dakar, etc., terminating either in Lagos or in the Congo. Because Congolese people forget that people were also enslaved. You see, Yoruba people, they're so aggressive. They're the ones who survive most robustly and whose culture. That's why when people think black people, basically, through the spiritual connection, they think first of Yoruba. I'm not being chauvinistic, I'm just stating a historical fact. It's what we find everywhere we go. And so it imposes on us a certain responsibility. And that responsibility is to take the lead and then bring others in. Ghana, we've spoken to Ghana. I'm still hoping that I may be able to join you in May for the Africa Day. I should mention that even heads of state, President Lula, when he was here, when Jonathan was here, they mentioned it together. And President Tinubu also has received his delegation. Can be summarized in a very simple way. There's only one humanity, and there's Godhead. Thank you very much.
For me, it's a day of appreciation to all and sundry and things that we're doing for the continent of Africa. Because this is our nucleus. What we are talking about today is the essence of our existence. Orisha are those energy that is beyond our consciousness, and we cannot live without them. Nobody in this world can live without photosynthesis. You must use oxygen to breathe. You get to the hospital, you are dying. The oxygen that will save you is not oxygen of Christian, nor oxygen of Muslim. Oxygen is oxygen. So, what are we talking about? Orisha is this propelling energy that none of us can survive without. Either you are a Christian, nor you are a Muslim. But a lot of people have recoined it to be demonic. They've recoined it based on their beliefs and virtues that do not mix it up. This is what our ancestors hold on to. Our culture, our religion and tradition are all based on nature. All forces of nature. Energy behind water, Oshun, behind fire, Shango, behind structure, metal, Ogun, behind protection, Oshosh. Even the herbs and leaves we take. Some will even sing, Kinshini by way at table. Why are you eating yam and egg for your breakfast? Where is ego coming from? The tuber of yam is ego. Cassava is ego. So Orisha is worth translates to essence of living. Nobody can survive without all these elemental forces. It is not possible. These are simple ways of appreciating the Godhead. When last did you appreciate common water that you drink, that you have access to? When last did you appreciate the elemental forces behind sunlight that gives you oxygen, that gives you life, that brings about photosynthesis? But basic things, the wind that blows, the forces of gravity that makes you stand up on your feet. We appreciate everything that we do that is linked to essence of living. But we have been misconstrued for a very long time, for several centuries. Yet we were able to survive transatlantic slavery. So for me, my joy today is, for the first time in history of our country, the federal government of Nigeria is officially recognizing the essence of the traditional belief and the strong background of we the Yoruba people. Please let us give a resounding round of applause to our president. For the very first time in the history of our country, we're going to have National Institute of Cultural Orientation. It's never happened before. Because of the sensitivity of our country. Oh, we don't want to offend Christians, we don't want to offend Muslims. But for the very first time, I want to thank President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for bringing this platform together. And you can see the quality of the structure. We will not disappoint the entire race. We will not disappoint the country. We have made history today thanks to
you for the opportunity to speak with you today about a vital and vibrant cultural heritage that lives at the heart of Brazilian identity, the enduring presence of Yoruba and Orisha culture in Brazil. When hundreds of thousands of Africans were forcibly brought to Brazil during the transatlantic slave trade, they carried with them not only their labor force, but also their languages, beliefs, and traditions. Among the most influential of these traditions and these African cultures was that of the Orisha and of the Yoruba people, originally what is now Nigeria. Each Orisha is connected to both the spiritual and the material world. These Orishas are not only prayed to, but celebrated with music, dance, and ritual. Its strength is an undeniable form of existence, a preservation of memory, and a declaration of identity. Thus, we are bonded by a history that unites us in a very special way, and the rich Afro-Brazilian culture is a connection that sets the foundations for a genuine partnership based on mutual respect and cooperation. I have celebrated last year 50 years of foreign service, which means that I have been literally all over the world. But never, and I really mean never, have I ever felt so much at home as I feel during Lagos.
Thank you for calling me to this meeting. This meeting should have happened more than 50 years ago. I say it is a little bit belated. That is, after Nigeria, the country of Nigeria came into existence, for like 60 years, that we are now beginning to realize the need for us to be close. Our religion and culture is being celebrated all over the world. There are people who are not even black, who are considered themselves white Americans or Europeans, who participate in our culture. It is time for us, the children of this culture who live in the homeland, to wake up, rise up, and claim our own heritage. People are celebrating you around the world, and you don't know. If we can nurture all these people who are celebrating and participating in our culture all over the world, it will yield a lot of dividends. Not only in terms of culture and civilization, but even in terms of trade and in terms of having a belonging to a worldwide culture that is celebrated everywhere.
I thank the Almighty for giving us this opportunity, the Almighty Olodumare, like we always say, and inspiring the Institute, particularly Otumba Ajiboye, to really bring this to forth. The essence of today's discussion is this. To me, both cultures all over the world are beautiful. All religions all over the world are beautiful. We should integrate. But do not miss that fact. Do not forget your culture. Anyone who forgets his or her culture is like a person who is not well grounded again. They are not well footed, they are not well grounded. It's like you are dangling and becoming a puppet, can be pushed to the left or to the right.
My name is Ambassador Dr. Erica Bennett, and I'm head of mission for the Diaspora Africa Forum. We are the first and only diplomatic mission of its kind in the world. I am just in awe of being invited, and I want to say to the executive secretary for inviting me and who talked about the diaspora. There's two types of diaspora, and I want you to get this today. There's two types of diaspora, African diaspora. My group, taken from slavery, I'm considered the historical diaspora. Nigerians, Ghanaians, those who leave Africa for work or greener pastures, you're considered the continental diaspora. Now, don't get confused with this American accent now. I am 99.99 Nigerian. I just really want you to really get this today, and that's what the diaspora is looking for. They're looking to connect. They're looking to want to come home. And Professor, what you're doing is exactly what the African Union wants to see done, bringing Brazilians back home. You see, and it's not, you don't have to stay. We're saying, look back, come back and look back. There's something that all of us can do.
The Orisha tradition is not evil. It is not demonic. It is sacred knowledge. Wisdom passed down across millennia. What we must do is present it not as a fearsome, but as beautiful, intelligent, and divine. This is why the Congress matters. It is a re-education. It is a platform to shift global perception. It is a place where priests will sit beside professors, where rituals meet reasons, and where heritage meets innovation. Our goal is to showcase the sophistication and spiritual of African tradition. I'll say that again. Our goal is to showcase the sophistication and spirituality of African tradition. Many of our artifacts now sit in Western Museum, carbon dated for 6,000 years. America is only 248 years old. Think about it. The African mind that created these wonders predates modern civilization.
Omi ò lá